Order. And before we go to the regular meeting, there is two public hearing items, and I invite Renee Jedry.
First one is just thank you. So the first meeting is just about the housekeeping amendments to our land use bylaw. It's just 6 housekeeping amendments that are mostly errors and omissions, and that would be all just the 6 amendments to that one. So, and we haven't had any calls or inquiries or written submissions for that one. And then did you want to do both in the one for, or we want? Okay. The second one would be for the development agreement of Highway 5964, Highway 3 Glenwood. It was a development agreement for heavy equipment storage, maintenance, and repair and use. We had 3 phone calls just inquiring on what the sign was at the road. They had no other comments, or they weren't against it. Just the one lady came in tonight. She just had questions on it. I answered the questions. It was mostly just noise related, fears of noise, but the agreement would capture that, and the applicant's still under our noise bylaw, so we could address any concerns, but with that bylaw. Other than that, there's no written submissions either, so. And that was it.
So do we have any questions? We're going to revisit this down the agenda, I think on number 7. So there'll be ample time for questions there as well, so. Seeing none, we will continue to our regular July 31st, 225 Executive Council.
It's good. Your mic's on.
Pardon me?
Keep going. Doing a great job.
Feel free to stand or move at any time you want. We have next on number 3, the approval of the agenda. And any conflict of interest you can declare now. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Foster?
Yes, I have a question regarding the minutes. We have the item approval of the minutes on the agenda, but we don't have business arising from the minutes. And it seems to me when I was on council years ago, there was a follow-up to the approval of the minutes, business arising from the minutes before we approved them. I'm not sure if I remember exactly, but is there any particular reason why we don't have an item for business arising from the minutes?
That's a good question. Shatan?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Foster. So you are absolutely correct. There did used to be an item on the agenda called business arising from the minutes. When we revisited, there used to be a council procedural bylaw, and when we revisited it back in 2022, it was one of those items that we kind of switched because we have the clerk's report now, so the clerk's report follows all of the items that we capture in the minutes. But if you notice that tonight, this evening, we actually, in your council procedural bylaw, one of the housekeeping amendments is to add old business to
Okay.
the agenda in case there is any old business that needs to be revisited. So that
Okay.
will be re-put on there.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to make a couple of comments of items that are in the minutes, and should I do that now or after they get approved? Just a few quick comments.
You can do now.
Okay, 'cause these are basically reports, talked about the need for safety concerns for Chemin Tour des Buttes in Amiros Hill. I'm very pleased to report to council that that matter has been dealt with, that the bush cutting machines have been in there, and they've done the bush cutting, and the residents are quite pleased. So I'm very happy to report that. Also, there was an item that bush cutting, exit 33 near the Tusket Ford. The motion to write a letter was not passed, but the department did in fact do the work. So that bush cutting has taken place as well. Black bears, there's been a sighting of a black bear in the community of Hubbard's Point since this was last, since it last, since it was last discussed at our meeting and appeared in the minutes. So there's still at least one black bear around local communities. And the flyer box in Amiro's Hill, it has still not been replaced. And according to the local residents, they've tried everything that they could do to get the company to replace it, and there's been no response. And there continues to be no response. So I guess that's just a little report on some of the items in the minutes.
So, Council President, I didn't quite understand your question at first. It kind of caught me off guard, but this matter was probably best dealt later on in the agenda, because here we're just trying to approve the agenda,
Yes,
or approve the minutes, sorry. So, to your answer, when it comes to your concerns,
Yes.
I'm glad that some of it is being resolved. And in
Yes.
terms of a black bear, that is not just a problem in your district.
Okay.
We see black bears in Plymouth all the time.
Is
I
that
say
right?
all the time, it's quite frequently.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I guess the problem is maybe even worse than we first saw it, or?
I don't know if it's worse. I think it's always been, and
Okay.
just, yeah,
Anyway, continues to be a problem.
okay. So, okay, so we wanted the approval of the agenda. I'm sorry, Counselor Digdon.
Thank you very much. Just wondering, if you keep going down, in-camera meeting that's gonna be possibly held after this meeting or during this meeting, alleged breaches of the municipality code of conduct. I know we're taking our direction there, from our legal counsel. Our legal counsel is not with us here this evening, and I'm just wondering if we should leave that part on, and talk about it in camera, or we should wait for our legal counsel to be here and talk with him and advise us as to what way to go.
We have debated that very question that you're doing, and we were thinking in line of taking it off the agenda. There's been a recommendation to leave it on and saying that it would educate council in preparation for our lawyer coming in. It would be next Wednesday, am I correct? The 6th, I think it's next Wednesday.
Okay, yep.
So that's kind of the path we've taken. I'm not saying that council will not vote on that tonight. That's entirely up to council. I'm not removing that off the table at this point, but I'm guessing because the attorney's not here to answer your questions, that vote might not happen, but.
Okay, no, that's fair, and I know when we had an email on this earlier, yesterday, there was only a couple of responses that I did see, and that, so I didn't know how the rest of the councillors felt about it, to be truthful with you.
I guess
So-
in essence, what we're looking at is doing it correctly rather than quickly is the words
Oh,
of our
By-
attorney.
By all means, that's
And
why,
so I don't think there's going to be, tonight will probably be educational more than anything.
that's fair. Yep, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So, move to approve the agenda. Do you have a seconder? Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And again, if you have any conflict of interest, you can declare it now or declare it when it comes up. Adoption of minute, June 26, 2025 executive meeting minutes. There is an attachment. Is there any corrections or omissions? Seeing none, we'll approve the minutes as circulated. Staff reports, these are monthly presented to council in an effort to keep basically council informed. And there is the department head report, the clerk report, and the building permit report. I'm naming all three because there's no motion to be made here. It's just a report, and I'm sure you guys have seen the attachments, you've read it. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. The only comment I'd like to say is the building permit report. That was something, I guess, years ago that I really wanted to see on our reports, and I see it's up quite a bit this year over last year again, so that's always a good thing in a municipality to see. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more questions? Seeing none, we will move to item 6, Article 6, 7-day notice. It's Article C-58, social media comment policy. This is a brand-new policy. It's maybe overdue. You've seen the attachment. Do you have any questions or comments on this? Council Albright.
Thank you.
Or no.
That's okay. Yes, this policy, as you said, I think is, it's overdue. I feel like we're in an age where social media is, it's very, very prevalent out there, and it can be used for good, but it can also be used for not so positive things. So I think that it's important that we have this policy because policies typically come out of things that happen. And we've seen that there have been some comments that aren't always positive, and it's not that we're not discouraging constructive criticism, but I guess we just don't want to deal with bullying and disinformation. So I was really happy to see this policy come into place because I feel like it's been a difficult year for this, and we need to be respectful of each other, and I feel like this policy certainly outlines a way that everybody can be respectful. So I appreciate the work that went into this policy. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we will go to Councillor Foster.
Yes, I'd just like to make a quick comment on that. I agree fully with our warden, Ms. Albright. Not only are we getting unfairly criticized at times on social media, but our positive messages are not getting out with the decline in the local media and even the provincial, I'm thinking of the newspapers in particular. The Chronicle Herald is a shadow of its former self. Even the local Vanguard, it's a few pages thick, and we don't get the coverage we used to get. There used to be a reporter when I was on council before. There was a reporter at every meeting. We also had local Viking cable TV taping the meetings. And I believe there was probably a lot more people watching local Viking cable TV programming at the time, whereas now people depend more on the internet and so on and so forth. So I agree this policy is needed, and it's kind of frustrating when all the wonderful things we do don't get covered by the media, either provincial or local, or at least much less than they used to. Yet social media, anybody can go on there and basically say what they want with immunity. So yeah, I agree with what the warden just said.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. It is overdue, and the problem is today the onus seems to fall more on council than it ever did. But we have to do our part and make sure that we get our information out there. Thank you. Is no more questions, so we will move to 6B, amendments to Article C-50, Council Procedural Policy. This is there's an attachment, and there's a lot of changes in there in red. Some of it is just stuff that is switched around. but there's changes or additions to the public presentation as well as the public input on question period. And that's the one that needed upgrading if it, at the very most. So it's good to see. Any questions or comments on either one of those or that whole article? On Amuse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an issue of clarity around the procedural policy. All of the changes, it looks like a lot of changes for public presentation, but just to clarify what the warden, what the deputy was explaining, that's actually a combination of two policies. So you had a public presentation policy before. So our practice is to say, okay, let's combine it here, and then if you're satisfied with that, we would then repeal the public presentation policy. Because what we were seeing was, every time we had something to change for one, it was actually two policies that needed changing. And they really do apply to the same thing. So that's, there's a lot of red, but the public presentation is basically verbatim from the prior policy.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move to Article 7 for decision and discussion. Article P44, Salary Administration Policy, there's one attachment, and I will hand this over to our CAO, Muse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You as council have had the chance to take a look at this policy a number of times. There have been minor amendments to it from its first version. The purpose is to actually put in policy what we would typically do in practice. So in practice, what would happen is salary scales and groupings were presented once every 3 years to council in an in-camera way, and then the result of which could and would be public. This makes it a lot more public, a lot more transparent as to what the groupings and salary scales represent. Also, it takes the authority out of one person's hands. For instance, I mean, before, again, the CAO would lead the presentation on this, and we firmly believe that it should be done via policy. It's the right thing to do. Very quickly, there's two things that are included here. There's salary grades and salary scale. This does not include the CAO's position. That is done by contract. This is only for staff positions that are not the CAO. The scales, each position is actually evaluated for complexity, supervision, etc. That's also shown under 3.4 of the section of the policy, skill level required education. So for instance, if somebody's supervising 10 people versus 2 people, that's different. There's more complexity in that position. So each position is evaluated and scored accordingly. And that is done internally. And it would be presented to the department heads on a I wouldn't say regular basis, but once in a while it would be presented for their information. So it also explains how red circle salary works. So when somebody is outside of their band for whatever reason, how that works around compensation. Red circling is a common term that we use around the salary staying the same for a period of time. There are instructions how that works. There are also instructions as to how compensation increases would work. What are the things that staff has to consider in order to determine whether an increase outside of inflation would be required? For example, if somebody became certified, there may be an increase in compensation because they're now certified to do a position versus being uncertified or in training. Last, I will say in the back of the policy, there is an appendix that shows the groupings themselves, and each grouping is described as to who might be included in those groupings. We don't list people in those groupings. It's more examples of the positions that would be qualified or to be in that grouping. Each of these scales has been analyzed by myself, and we did have some department head discussion around this. It's compared to the AMA salary survey, so we do receive information across the province about how salaries are dealt with in other municipalities, and we do focus on the ones that are our size. So HRM salary ranges are really not relevant to us, for instance. So we then tailor that information for local and/or rightly sized rural municipalities. We also utilize other municipal data. So for instance, Municipality of Clare recently went through the very same piece of work, and their scales are extraordinarily comparable to ours. So that's confirmation that you're in the right range. And ranges are ranges, right? We only have 4 groupings here, which means there are a lot of staff people that could potentially be in each of those groupings. Some organizations have 7, some have 8. So what you'll see is that the less the groupings, the larger the gap. The larger the gap. So for instance, under specialists, the opening salary would be 55 and the closing would be 70. Well, and there's a lot of space in between, and that's the reason, because it includes a wide grouping of people. So that's how it's determined. Each year, these groupings will be increased by inflation. So if there's a 2% increase in inflation at the end of December of this year, all of these groupings would go up by that percentage point. So then the salary ranges would just be slightly different, obviously, 2% different. The department heads and the CAO can move people across this grouping as much as they can, as much as they feel is appropriate, but they cannot they cannot pay outside of that scale. Somebody's at the door there. So they cannot pay outside of the scale. Hello. Come on. Have a seat. Okay. All right. Sorry. Sorry for the interruption. So that's about the end of the description. I went into quite a bit of detail there, but this is the first time you've seen something like this, so I decided to go into a little bit more. If there are any questions or concerns or comments, let me know. I'll stop right there and welcome any comment.
Thank you, Alain Muse. We need a motion for this. Is anybody willing to make a motion to accept?
There's a question.
Councillor Surratt?
Yes, I was just wondering, when you're talking about the salary scales and groupings, is there a significant difference from the previous policy? Is it similar?
It would be, the ranges would be reasonably similar to the past when we had, when we were establishing ranges for positions. As has been the case in municipal government, there have been some adjustments in certain areas that were more considerable than others. For example, the specialists, those that are let me repeat. Those that are certified as building officials, fire inspectors, the salary scale for that position changed rather significantly across Nova Scotia because the expectation and the education requirements have also increased. So, and there's it's kind of like a demand, there's a lot of demand for this as well. So I'd say for the most part, those ranges were not considerably different than what was used in last year or the year before. But I'd be remiss to not mention that there were some increases of larger significance, particularly in that area.
And we were able to look at that when it came to budgeting.
Her mic's off.
The question was, we were able to look at that when it comes to budgeting. The answer is absolutely yes. And so what would happen here is when the budgets go through, now that you have this, you have better information to understand what the range might be for a particular position. So when you get into the nitty-gritty of the budget and you're looking at a particular position, you might be in a better position to say, well, is that a specialist or is that a certified person? Which is really why we wanted to do this policy, to broaden the information for you. You're welcome.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Councillor LeBlanc, motion, and seconded by Councillor Burke. Do we have any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we will go to 7B, first reading, bylaw X25, circus animal prohibition. There's one attachment. This is a motion to repeal. We got no circus, so, and not gonna have one either. So it's pretty cut and dried. So do we have anybody is willing to make a motion? Okay, moved by Boudreau and seconded by Councillor Surratt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 7C, East and West Pumlico Fire Department consolidation. There's one attachment, and there's a proposed motion to approve such a union. We need a motion for that. It's proposed. I can read the motion. Suggested motion is to move that council endorse East and West Pumlico's decision to consolidate operations and be financially responsible for the legal and accounting cost related to the consolidation. Moved by Councillor Digdon and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any questions? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you very much. Just a little background for the people that may be watching from home. These departments are getting together to better protect the area. Fire departments now are having a hard time with getting new volunteers. So the big thing about this now, when one department gets paged out, the other department automatically gets paged out. They get paged out at the same time. And that, so you're gonna have a lot more people showing up to some of the fires or medical calls or whatever the case may be, calls that the fire departments call for, that you would not normally have. And that, so, which is a great thing to have that many more personnel on showing up. This year has been in the works for quite a while. I know our fire chief, ex-fire chief, Gordon Amiro used to talk about it. I'm looking over at Councillor Bork. Maybe her husband, when he was fire chief, may have talked about it as well. And it's been brought forward now between Fire Chief Devin D'Entremont and Fire Chief Joe Dion. So I think it's going to be a win-win situation all the way around. I was at a meeting here last week in Shelburne talking about fire service in Nova Scotia as a whole, and you may see a lot more of these departments amalgamating in the province. And that, so, and because of necessity, because of lack of volunteers, and just to try and make the departments work better. So that's why I moved the motion forward here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Surratt.
Thank you, Deputy. As I was reading through the policy, I was trying to understand what was the difference, because as you read through and it says right there with the mutual aid calls that they seem to respond anyway. So I was like, one department, but still two stations, and I was really struggling. So I really appreciated in the back of the policy where it talks about the pros and cons. And I had a whole, as everybody knows, I write a lot, and I had a whole list of things. And then I reached that section and it was like, oh, well, there's my answers right there. So I just really wanted to say that for folks who are looking at this, to understand it even further. I think that suggested piece is really helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Boudreau.
Thank you, Warden. Just a quick question, maybe to Glenn. Glenn might be able to answer me. I know you're struggling with volunteers. A few years back, we mentioned that it'd be a great idea to have like a credit for kids at high school to get involved, like in the fire department. Where are we with that? Like, where are we at?
Thank you. Yes, that has been put forward. That credit is available, and that if the students would like to take it to join the fire department, and take some training, that credit, it can count as a credit, that for the school system.
So it's in our school system now?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay,
I
perfect.
believe-
Thank you.
I believe so. Yeah, yeah, it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Bork.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's a positive move. It showed an example, Woods Harbor and Shag Harbor and those fire departments, it showed that it was a positive move. I'm sure it's hard to make that move, but it shows that it was productive, and they have a great fire department down there, so we're hoping that this will happen to our fire departments as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, motion carried. So we will move to 7D, second reading, land use bylaw housekeeping amendments. This was brought up at the very beginning by Renee. And there is a recommended motion for this one. It says that council give first reading to consider approval of the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw as contained in the planner's report dated June 5th, 2025. Proceed to a public hearing without a second meeting of Planning Advisory Committee unless substantial comments are received from the public, and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. It is moved by Warden Albright and seconded by Councillor Burke. Questions? Sir Muse?
Yeah, just on that motion, that we're just, Chantal had pointed out that the motion that you just made was the prior motion for this. So what we're
Okay.
looking for, so I apologize, we couldn't get in quick enough. So and apologies for the lack of clarity on this. So it's basically a second reading motion for the land use. It's basically to approve I'm reading it now, the housekeeping amendments proposed in the land use bylaw as presented. So it's essentially just approving those housekeeping, and they are housekeeping, dotting the i's, crossing the t's. So it doesn't require a motion to that extent. That would have been the prior motion. So if it would be appropriate, I think, to repeal that motion and in favor of the one I'm suggesting.
Okay. So are we in favor of repealing that motion? Do we have to make a motion to repeal? Yes, please. A motion by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Boudreau. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we go to the motion. Can you read that motion?
The proposed motion is to approve the housekeeping amendments proposed in the land use bylaw as presented.
Moved by Councillor, or by Warden Albright, seconded by Councillor Burke. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we move on to 7E, second reading of the development agreement application. And again, Renee went over this one, and there is also a recommended motion.
Just for clear, before we go down the road and we have to
Same
repeal it. We don't want to repeal the road. If you recall that, Renee Jedry did make the suggestion that a minor amendment to the motion be made. Initially, it stated that the building size was 1,200 square feet. That was an error. It should have said 1,500 square feet. It's a minor I mean, it's not very much different, right? It's essentially the same. But the recommended motion would be that you approve the development agreement for the property, subject to the submission of a revised site plan indicating the correct building size of 1,500 square feet, and that the corrected site plan be attached to form part of the signed final agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Surratt. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we will move to F, Western Counties Library request for support. This is they're asking for a letter of support to the provincial government for sustainable library funding by November 2025. Councillor Burke.
Thank you. Yes, I'm in favor to support this. The library had to make cuts, trying to cut probably programs to keep their staff. As of course, everything goes up, money doesn't come in as to maintain what they have. So they're not able to extend their programs and things like that, but they're keeping their staff, and staff is not paid probably up to par what they should be. So there's a study that is supposed to be done, a funding review, if you've seen in the attachments. So libraries, as I've already said before, are more than just getting a book. It's a place where people can go that's safe. It's open to the public. They're there all the time, and we have them in our municipality and surrounding areas. So I support to send a letter.
So this is basically a letter of support.
Yes,
Yeah. So anybody willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right. Moved by Councillor Burke and seconded by Councillor Madden. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, correspondence and for information, a draft. This is a bylaw, outdoor light illumination and pollution. It's an update. And I will pass this over to our CAO Muse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quick update on this one. Initially, we said first reading to be second reading today, but then we received a lot of feedback, and some of which very eye-opening, I would suggest. There's a couple things that that the bylaw was intended to go to first reading, knowing that it was an education-only bylaw, because there was a lot to learn about what light pollution actually is. There's a lot of misunderstanding around this bylaw at this time. So, for instance, you're going to turn off our lights. No, that's never been any part of the bylaw. That's a fear that people will not have, safety and security of their facilities. And then there's organizations and businesses that require it for federal regulations, and there's all sorts of reasons why there may be a need for lighting. This bylaw does not eliminate the need for lighting, has no intentions of doing that. But what it does have intentions of doing is to do it in a more, in a less intrusive way. So we've all been driving, and this is a terrible example, but we've all been driving and somebody's left their high beams on at night, right? How aggravating is that? And then you might be living next to somebody with a really, really big light that is shining in your bedroom window. So that to me would be called, a lot of people, people in the industry of light pollution would call that light trespass. So basically the light is intruding on you, right? Light pollution, so we want to be in a situation where we can have conversations with people and say, maybe you want to aim that a little to the left or somewhere else to not be as intrusive. There are 3 elements to this bylaw that are being considered, and they may not end up all of them being considered in the end. But one is that we would shield the light. So there would be a upward shielding on the light so that you're aiming the light downward. So that reduces the pollution of the sky while maintaining the integrity of that light. I mean, people don't buy lights to light the sky, right? They buy lights to light where they are. So the shielding would improve or improve or reduce light pollution potentially. The second is reducing the temperature of the light. So typically you have a 5,000 Kelvin. That says not a lot to me, but I do know that that's standard. And then you will see 4,000 and you might see 3,000. What this bylaw is saying is 2,700. That's lower than than what is the standard. What they're saying is that 3,000 Kelvin would be appropriate. So, and what does that mean? That is not the intensity of the light more than it is about the temperature of the light. And the lower the temperature, typically, the better the light in terms of pollution, okay? So again, does this mean that there's less lighting? No, that doesn't mean that at all. It actually means that it's a less intense light. And we've all seen the big, bright, white LED lights that go out, and those can be really a culprit for light pollution. And so if those are going to exist in Argyle, there has to be a reasoning behind that. Again, there are companies that have reached out to us and said, we're concerned. And because we're regulated by the federal government to make sure that the lighting is appropriate. Well, this bylaw is very clear about that. If the federal government says you need lighting, this bylaw does not apply to those organizations. And so we do not or never have been able to override provincial or federal law anyway. So we want to take the time to educate people more about what this is and maybe talk about, what measures can be put in place that are reasonable. I had an excellent question asked of me. Somebody who's paying a lot of attention, and what they said was, you're talking about shielding light, you're talking about timers on light that might go off if there's no activity, and you're also talking about lower temperature. So is it all three, or is it one of the three? And I had no answer for that person. So clearly, we have work to do still to try to get this through in a way that makes sense. Again, this is not meant to be an enforcement document. It's meant to be educational. But I think that by doing the first reading, we caught people's attention, for good or for bad. And so, and that's good, because now, we can have the conversation. Now that we're all paying attention, we want that input. So we're going to arrange over the course of the next 2-3 months to get people to give us some input on this. And then that input will become part of a report that will be presented to you, along with, potential amendments to the bylaw, and then you'll decide whether you're ready to vote on it at that time or not. So we're not rushed on this one. The light season, for all intents and purposes, is behind us anyway. Like, really, this is mostly a summer event, and even if we pass this bylaw today, it's educational only. There would be no real significant change to the light pollution in the area. So I think we have time to get this right.
Thank you, CEO Muse. Warden Albright.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I feel like the education piece is going to be really important. And we talked earlier about social media. I think it would be good if we were to start putting posts on social media about almost like frequently asked questions, like, what does it mean? Like little tidbits at a time, because some of the questions, and I've had a lot of really respectful conversations around this with residents, and things they've asked is, why are we doing this? Why has this come up? And I mean, we know sitting around the table why this has come up, but not every resident knows. So, the fact that we have the dark skies designation, we have a worldwide dark skies designation, we want to protect that. We've had it for 10 years, we'd like to keep it for longer. One question I've had is this for a particular business? And it's not for a particular business. And I know that there are a lot of rumors out there that that's why we're doing this. But this is to keep that designation. We actually have 2 businesses that have really embraced this Dark Skies initiative and have worked, to promote the dark skies. And they're working on astrotourism within our municipality. So it's about growth. This part is about economic growth as well. The cost, I've had people asking me, is this going to cost me more money? And I think that that's a big question that we need to answer for residents. If we have an expectation, I've had people say to me, well, if I have to change my lights all at once, that's going to cost me money. And, you know, that's a fear, that's a concern for some residents. The enforcement, can you clarify something for me? Has enforcement on this bylaw started yet? Because I've had somebody ask me that question, and they were told by somebody that enforcement on this bylaw has already begun. Okay, thank you.
The answer to that question is enforcement on this bylaw has not begun. This bylaw is not in place. However, we have received complaints around lighting in certain instances. I'll say that the land use bylaw does have regulations for new lights, but it doesn't apply to lights that exist. So the land use, and this is more and more common, but the land use bylaw says if you're constructing new, you have to show us that you're using a light that's a reasonable light. We have received complaints that are really, they're not really, we can't address them under this because it has no teeth. There's not even passed. But what we've typically done was when somebody is annoyed by something like this, oftentimes our bylaw enforcement officer just simply has a conversation. Says, well, you know, that light is glaring right in somebody's window. Can you move it? Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. I'll move it. So there's been no enforcement of this, but there have been instances where people have complained because it is a nuisance to them. And it's been mostly a positive experience in conversation, or at least from our perspective, maybe not from others, but it's just, it's a matter of, there's no enforcement here, and there isn't any intention to enforce this for any foreseeable future. All those dates will be changed most likely, and in fact, we actually noted an error, because in the first reading, it noted that the bylaw enforcement officer may enter the premise of a particular home for this purpose. That is actually not true. The bylaw officer can only enter the premise for land use or dangerous and unsightly issues. It cannot do it for this bylaw. So that would be a situation where it would only be with the permission of somebody to say, hey, can we have a conversation? It is not somebody that can just strictly come on the property and say, your light is wrong, your light is. Now, if the light is trespassing, obviously they can be on another property and examine that. But again, like I said, I think it was a little premature, the first reading, and that's on me. And so I think we just need to make some adjustments and get it right.
But I think it's good because it got people's attention, and it
Sure did.
began really good conversations. And the other thing that I've heard about is security. People are, they're a little bit worried about, if I reduce the lighting on my property or on my business, what about my security? There's a resident in my district who sells cars and is concerned that, he has lighting on his property for that reason. And that makes sense to me, but we're not talking about eliminating lighting. We're not talking about reducing lighting. It's just a change, a different type of lighting. And I think that that's why the education piece is going to be really important. And we should start putting, just my opinion, we should start putting snippets on our website as soon as we can, just to kind of keep residents up to date.
And we will do that. I agree with you, Warden. And I'll just say one last thing about this is that we're really not 100%, because it's not passed. We're not sure if we're going to be asking people to do 1, 2, or 3 things, right? I mean, if shielding the light downward without changing anything else provides for an improvement and a solution that makes sense, well, so be it, right? So we just have a bit more work to do there. I will say that I'm in personal contact with Nova Scotia Power, because sometimes the lighting that you select has nothing to do with you. You want a light on your property, and it's Nova Scotia Power street light, not a street light, but a light. And if they're not going to comply with anything, then what's the point? Because they're just going to put in what they're putting in. So they've confirmed that they are dropping the Kelvin of the lights for people's homes, but they're not quite ready to do that for street lights for the very reason you might expect, right? Like if there's a street light on the highway, people want that to be illuminating the highway, no questions asked. So they're still working on that. Last thing I'll say is I did speak with Efficiency Nova Scotia on the question of, well, what if it costs money? Well, if this is an efficiency thing, then we should be connecting with the people that actually have grants and methods to help people through to make sure that, yeah, maybe you do have a little cost at the beginning, but over the course of time, it's going to cost you less because it's a less intense light, right? So there's those things. A lot of that stuff is still going. So as we get more, we'll update you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Digdon.
Thank you very much. I am glad to see that we are going to slow down on this one. There's no saying I'm not. I actually did put it out on my Facebook site, had a lot of different responses about it, and a lot of the responses was because I'd say because the people were not educated about what we're looking at doing. But having said that, the designation for the dark skies down here, I'm all for it. There's no saying I'm not. But having said that, we talk about light trespass, and that I think if we don't do it as a region, if the municipality of Argyle, tells their residents, oh, you can't do this, your light's too bright and all that, but if we don't do it as a region and we don't go to the east of us and to the west of us, we might be beating a dead horse for. Exactly. There's no, sorry about that. There's no dome over us. Exactly. And I honestly think we have to look at doing that as well. Also, and I've said it publicly, I'll state it again here publicly this evening, I said it on the computer, on Facebook. Anything to do with safety and security, and that I'm all for safety and security. We need the lights around the wharfs, we need the lights around the fish plants. We are not going to be, that I know of, and if we are, I'm going to be 110% against it, going out and telling all these fish plant owners and everything, you have to change all these lights at your fish plants. You have to change the lights on the wharf. Our CAO is saying no, and that, so for the people the camera might be trained on me right now, but our CAO is shaking his head no, so that should put some people at ease knowing that. So, I think I think it can be a good policy if it's administered the right way, if there's enough education goes with it, and if some of our neighbors on the sides of us come on board, because if not, like our warden said, there's no dome just over our area. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And then another thing, if I may, the only thing what I'd like to have is possibly a few paper copies of the proposed bylaw, or what it may look like, or what we have there now, because I've had some people ask for them. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. First off, I fully agree with Councillor Digdon and his comments, especially in regards to with the fish plants and the wharfs. I have myself received some inquiries in regards to it, and that is their biggest concern, and rightfully so. The point I just want to make is actually what Warden Albright brought up, and I think is a great idea in regards to social media and about getting this information out there and this tidbits of information. As you know, because I probably bring it up at most council meetings, if not probably 3 out of 4 council meetings, I always talk about communication and the algorithms on social media and how they work. And so I think when we're looking at this, which is a very important bylaw and very important to get this information out there correctly, that if we just put it out there on social media, if nobody engages in it, it's not going anywhere. And so I think we need to spend the money on this one and boost that post and make sure that we hit the area as much as we possibly can, so that it is showing up in people's feeds, so they do get that information. And that's basically all I just wanted to point out. Thank you.
Any more questions? I think it's a good debate. I think there's a lot of good points brought up here. Councillor Digdon said he was glad there was a slowdown. I think the slowdown was recognized by our warden and our CAO. And I think the slowdown is because we need to put the word out there. We have a new media policy. Let's use it. So, I think it was a good debate, and I think we're on the right track to make sure that this happens in a good, respectful way. Thank you. Okay, We will now move to 8B, Yarmouth International Airport Corporation, letter to MP d'Entremont. That's one attachment, and I will pass this one along to Council LeBlanc.
Thank you. So back in June, early June, when the Canadian government came out and announced an increase in their defense spending, it opened up the idea that, especially with the Yarmouth Airport and what we have working on there, an opportunity to reach out to them to look at possibly some federal funding at some point because of what we do have going on at the airport and what they are looking for. We feel that the Yarmouth Airport is an ideal location. We feel it has the space that's needed. And as well, we do have a drone company, a robotics company that is operating out of there that is in development stages for this type of things. So we've sent off a letter to the Honorable Chris d'Entremont as well. We CC'd the two MPs that are adjacent, Honorable Cody Blois and Honorable Jessica Fancy Landry, with this letter. And it's basically to outline what I just indicated. Currently, we are putting together a case for this, and we have started in regards to reaching out to bring awareness to this. Recently, actually earlier this week, we have had the pleasure of meeting with our MP, Chris d'Entremont, as well as our MLA, the MLA out of Yarmouth, Nick Hilton. And a lot of these things were brought to the attention, and we have both of them on board right now to work with us in regards to moving this forward. So hopefully, when all said and come, that everything will eventually help to improve what we're looking for at the airport and to hopefully end up with some federal funding, especially in the infrastructure side of things, to get the airport back into operation to what it should be. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Council LeBlanc? Councilor Foster.
A quick question. I don't know, I really don't know, but I would assume that using drones, the surface of the runway would not need to be as fussy as it would be to accommodate a conventional aircraft. Do you know anything about that, or? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first point is we're not just looking at the airport as just a drone facility.
Okay.
So there is a company that operates out of the airport there that's what they do. They develop drone, and again, that's just part of what we're looking for. But if you look at, for example, if I go back to the wildfires 2 years ago,
Yes.
where were all the aircraft landing to refuel? Where were they, parking for the night?
Yes.
It was here, and so if you remove the Yarmouth Airport out of this area, just picture that. If Yarmouth Airport was not there, right? Where's the next biggest airport that can handle this type of infrastructure, right? And it's Greenwood or it's Halifax. And with what's taken place at CFB Greenwood, as well with this increase in increase of defense spending, there's significant opportunities for Yarmouth to work in collaboration with CFB Greenwood as possibly a flow over. And again, I mean, you're looking at there's numerous opportunities for different things there. We have a really good niche, I believe, at the airport that can be worked on. And again, but it's going to take time. It's going to take money, and hopefully maybe even a little bit of luck. But at the end of the day, I think that we are certainly on the right track with it and where it needs to be. I'm not afraid to say this either, and I think it's a very important point. You know, when you look at an asset of that size, and it's owned by the 3 municipalities, it's a very important asset that services not just those 3 municipalities, but Southwest Nova Scotia. So there's some work to do there as well in regards to the other areas that utilize that. But at the end of the day, you know, there's money that's gonna have to be put into that asset. And hopefully, most of that money we're gonna be able to get from the feds, and hopefully, we're gonna be able to get some provincially as well. And those are the things that we are working on. But it is something that I think that councils have to be aware of, that it's gonna take some money coming from councils as well for what needs to be done. So, you know, it's one of those things where, we have that asset, it is ours. What are we gonna do with it? Are we going to just leave it and let it get to the point of where we don't use it? Or are we gonna do something with it and make it viable?
Right. I have a quick follow-up question. If you watch the news nowadays, and where there's conflict going on in the world, you hear a lot about drone attacks. You hear a lot of drones used in warfare. My question is, what can drones be used for besides weapons of war?
Everything. If you look at, and I'm not an expert in this, but if you look at Amazon, you look at FedEx in the major cities, they're starting to use drones for delivery. So they're being used for search and rescue. They're being used for everything. I mean, it's wherever you could think of, you know, somebody lost in the woods or on a
Yeah.
side of a cliff or whatever, and
Yeah.
you can't get a helicopter down there. Not saying that you're gonna be able to, you know, bring, you know, a complete rescue team down there with a drone, but there are things that you could probably do with the drone that would certainly help the situation, so. Yeah, I think it's endless of where drone technology is going. And again, you don't need to be on site to operate that drone. That's the other side of it
Okay.
too. You could have somebody that's sitting in Toronto or sitting in, you know, Hectanuga,
Okay.
operating a drone that's in the
Right.
mid-Atlantic, right? So it's,
So the company that's operating there now, they're developing commercial drones? Not,
yeah,
they're not in the business of building
Yeah, I'm-
weapons of war, is what
Yeah,
I
I'm
was-
not, I have no idea of what types of drones that they're doing. What I do know is that's what they do. They develop drones,
Okay.
so.
Okay, thank you. Counselor LaBelle.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? The airport's always been a good fight. It's a worthy fight. Keep it up. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to 8C, letter to NSFM from the Municipality of Digby for road concerns. It seems like the municipality is trying to gather up all the municipalities and to write a letter of support to NSFM to pressure the government to increase funds for road repair and maintenance. And they want us to write a letter of support. We would need a motion for that. I don't know how many municipalities have complied with this, if any.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councillor Boudreau. Do we have a seconder?
I have a question. Are we supposed to do a motion on this because it's for correspondence and for information?
Okay.
I don't know. Usually those are for decisions.
There is a request, but
I mean, I can second the motion. It's not a problem.
is,
So the
Senior
motion, the
use.
motion being seconded, it can be discussed, and so the Digby is not necessarily asking for a letter. They are attaching us as a copy to the letter that they sent to the NSFM. You are regardless of where it is on the agenda, you have every right, if you wish, to make a motion. The reason why it's there is because there wasn't a specific request for it. But if you wish to do that, the motion is certainly in order.
So there is a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question on that, and really, I don't know who could best answer, but what I don't we know that there's not adequate funding for roads in rural Nova Scotia. We know that. And yet every time I drive to Halifax, they've cut down another section of forest, they're blasting through rocks, and they're doubling the highways as far south as they can, or in all directions going away from Halifax. They seem to be building new roads, doubling the highways. I don't understand why the government would be spending so much money on creating new road beds in order to double the highways going down a distance toward Lunenburg instead of redirecting that money to the existing highways. Because if you build a new road, you have to maintain it. And even the existing roads going into Halifax, I went up to Halifax about 2 weeks ago, and the roads are in horrible condition. The double highways, I don't get it. Maybe somebody knows the reasoning behind that, but makes me wonder.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Thank you. I can try to answer your question, and I'm no expert, but I can indicate from, just, I think from what I know. So when they're building roads coming outside of Halifax, and it's not that they're building them heading towards Lunenburg or whatever, they're building them because Halifax has become so congested and people are living outside, and so there's people traveling into the city to work. And so if you don't have that infrastructure in place of having smooth flowing traffic hitting into the city, you're going to run into gridlock, which is going to decrease productivity drastically, and it just becomes a tremendous nightmare and a tremendous cost. Not only province-wide, but everywhere. So double highways is double lanes. It's not only a safety concern, but it is to keep the flow of traffic moving really good. And that's why, and of course, they're going to work from Halifax heading out because they have to. 1 out of 2 people live in that area. And so it is the hub, it's the economic engine of the province. And so they need transportation routes to do that. Your issue with the roads in Halifax compared to outside is, again, it's the same issue with the town of Yarmouth compared to outside. The Halifax HRM pays for the roads. They pay for the upkeep of the roads, where the outside highways and that are done provincially, right? So it's different funding.
Thank you, that's an excellent answer. But what I did mean, super, I was impressed, I'll tell you. The only thing, what I meant was the condition of the roads, the double highways just before you get into Halifax, that the pavement, but would that be maintained by HRM? No, I don't think so.
No, those main highways like the 101
Yeah,
or the
right,
103
right.
are provincial out. But
Yeah.
again, these projects of building, of
Yeah.
widening those lanes,
Yeah, I get it.
that comes from a different capital fund than
Right.
the repairs of those highways, right? And so it's, yes, some of those highways are starting to wear down and you have bumps and you have a few
Right.
things, but they're still operational.
Right,
They're still,
right.
yeah, so.
You'd have made an awesome Minister of Public Works.
Shovel at home, waiting.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor. Do you have any more questions? No, seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So 8D, Western County Regional Library Annual Report. We have one attachment. The attachment is quite large. The report emphasizes the need and importance of libraries in our communities. It's a good report. I've read it through a couple of times. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move on to 8E, letter from Department of Public Works. There's one attachment. This is a letter of response to road repair for the Chemin de la Pointe. And work is ongoing and be completed in the next 3 years. That is in District Foster's area. So I think you've already covered this one.
Pleased, we're very pleased to have that response from the department. The only thing I would like to add, I'm wondering if we should write a letter of thanks. Not necessarily, I think we've already done that for this road work, but further down where they've done the bush cutting and stuff, I was wondering if it would be appropriate to thank them for the work that they did. That's all. Thank you.
But I'm sure it'd be great to get a letter of thanks. We could do that for every district, I'm sure. Are you making a motion?
Well, we're not quite there yet. I think we've already sent a letter of thanks for the work that was done on the Chemin de la Pointe. We've sent a letter of thanks for the work accomplished there. But for the bushwhacking, I think it's further down the agenda.
Yeah, well, the next one's
Yeah.
F, which is the same
Yeah.
category, is the Chemin Tour de les Buttes.
That's right.
Right. And that one is ongoing? Am I?
The work has been done, the work
Oh,
has
it's all
been
done.
completed. I would like to make a motion that we write a letter to the department thanking them for taking care of that issue.
Do we have a seconder? Counselor Digdon, second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we will go to 8G, confirmation of code of conduct training. There's an attachment. This is basically an acknowledgement that all the counselors have completed the code of conduct training. It's pretty simple, so I will move on to 9, financial requests, Jumpstart project budget. There's 2 attachments. We have recommendation and suggested motion. Sergio Muse, do you have anything to add on that?
Not really, well, there's always one thing to add, isn't there? But, I mean, the recommendation is to approve it. It's not a terribly large amount of money. It's a question of like invoice misplacement or misposting, I should say, on the part of the town. And all 3 units really should pay their share. It's part of the cost. It was just
It's predetermined.
yeah, I mean, we had predetermined we were gonna do the project, and you had actually approved a budget overage in the fall of last year. It's just, this is one of those invoices that just got misposted, and so when they sent us the bill, it's like, I don't have authority to pay for that. So that's basically what this is. Actually, the future I have a procedure and policy that addresses budget overages and unbudgeted items, so that we're gonna do it in a very similar way, similar to what your procurement policy says about who has authority to do what. Too many times things come up when they're unexpected, so we need to find a better way of doing it. That being said, this is a motion, 5,900 and change. I would recommend that it be approved.
I will read the motion. It's moved to authorize the contribution of $5,901.01 in the town of Yarmouth to pay for Municipality of Argyle's portion of the budget overage on the Jumpstart multipurpose facility at the Mariners Center, Yarmouth. There's a motion. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, number 10, agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion by councilors. Seeing none. 11, question period. Any questions? No questions. 12, we'll need a motion to move in the camera. Moved by Kathy,